What's going on YouTube? Bacon here bringing another video. This one going to be my week 2 match for the MWPA Season 7. This week we are taking on nseliga, coach of the Hartford Wailords. We actually played nseliga in the regular season of Earth last season, so we actually both got promoted for this one, but I believe in that game I got a ton of hacks on him, like tons of Thunderbolt para, full paras with my Raikou onto his team, and I basically 6-0'd with sub T-Bolt Toxic Protect Raikou. So that was really pretty much an ungame as far as I'm concerned, so hopefully we can get a little bit of a cleaner one this time. Definitely a very difficult matchup on tap for us, but starting out 2-0 would be super nice for this season. So let's look at the matchup here and what he's got and what I'm bringing. So leading off, nseliga's got the Tapu Koko, Ferrothorn, Mega Medicham, Crocodile, Toxapex, Dragonite, Gengar, Delmise, Xurkitree, Primarina, and Tornadus Incarnate. Obviously Tapu Koko is very difficult to deal with. It's going to be kind of difficult for me to catch that thing this game, because it can basically just U-turn around my team and kind of get into some of the stronger offensive pivots. Tapu Koko itself is also a big threat to me. Something like Calm Mind Tapu Koko could definitely have potential, right? Like T-Bolt, D-Gleam, HP Ice maybe. Could definitely be problematic for my team to deal with. Zeraora does outspeed it, but doesn't do a ton back in return. But I do have things like the Mega Venusaur to kind of check that thing over the course of the match. I think he might be running like Z Brave Bird Tapu Koko with like dual stab plus HP Ice or something, like 4 attacks kind of Tapu Koko. He's definitely limited on his move slots on what he can do this game, but depending on what kind of set he wants to run, it's definitely a big threat to my team, particularly a big threat to something like my Celesteela. So Tapu Koko always very difficult to deal with. He's got the Ferropex core. I think my team deals pretty nicely with Ferropex, so I wasn't, even though I might have thought he might bring like one or the other of them, I wasn't really expecting to see both of them this game. I think my team threatens those pretty well. I do have the double Psychic to pressure the Toxapex, and my Necrozma obviously gets Heat Wave to cover for Ferrothorn, so I wasn't super expecting to see the combination of those two in this match, and as you can see, he didn't end up bringing them. Mega Medicham's a huge offensive threat. I did need to run kind of a bulky variant of Necrozma to help deal with that. See that in my team builder aspect here a little bit. But definitely a difficult Pokemon to deal with. Hits really hard with electric terrain. If he's carrying something like Thunder Punch, he could do some really big damage to my Celesteela. High Jump Kick does that anyways. But definitely a big threat in the Mega Medicham there. And then kind of offensively, the Dragonite and the Gengar were really huge threats in my mind coming in. Like Dragonite, setup variants of Dragonite are very difficult for my team to deal with. It's very difficult for me to stop him from getting the +1 even after his multi-scale is broken, because I do have some more passive Pokemon like the Mega Venusaur, like Gligar, like the defensive Necrozma I just mentioned. So very difficult for me to stop the Dragonite from setting it up and kind of set up in my Venusaur's face all day. And get off kind of like a Z, I don't know if he'd run like Z Outrage versus me, or if he'd run Z Fly, or what. He's definitely going to be carrying some kind of coverage for Celesteela, maybe Thunder Punch himself, even though he won't get the terrain boost from it because he's Flying type. But he could be running something like Thunder Punch, Z Fly, Dragon Dance with maybe a Dragon type move as coverage, like Dragon Claw or something like that. Definitely makes a good bit of sense for my team. Very, very difficult Pokemon for me to deal with. I do have ways of revenge killing it on my team, even with things that I didn't bring, like my Comfey, for example. It's a kind of good option to revenge kill the Dragonite, but stopping it from getting like 1 Mon is going to be pretty difficult in this game for sure. And then other than that, I felt like it's pretty much on target with what I expected him to bring this match. Like the Koko was definitely coming. I was pretty sure I was going to see Medicham as well. Scarf Crocodile makes a ton of sense to help deal with my Zeraora. Otherwise, it could be like a bulkier type of variant with Chople Berry or something like that to help take it on. But I was definitely expecting more like a Scarf Crocodile in this instance to outspeed things like my Terrakion and my Zeraora, my Latios, all at neutral. Probably like dual stab with Pursuit, I'm thinking, on the Crocodile to help catch my Latios. And then kind of looking at the rest of his team, the Tornadus could be Z-Move, it could be Life Orb. Definitely a good way for him to pressure my Mega Venusaur over the course of the match, because that thing's a huge defensive problem for him to deal with. But definitely a little bit scared of the Tornadus in this game as well. But yeah, let's get into my side of the prep here and what I brought, why I brought it. First thing up here is the Zeraora, of course, in Digimon with Titanium Z, Plasma Fist, Fire Punch, Close Combat, and Bulk Up. Running just enough speed to creep the Tapu Koko, of course, and Hex Attack, Jelly Nature. Even though I don't do a ton back to Koko, he really doesn't do a whole lot to me either, and I am faster, so with his own terrain boosts, after a +1, I am 2-hit KOing kind of a standard variant of Tapu Koko, which is kind of nice to note with my Plasma Fists. Fire Punch is a nice option for me to hit the Ferrothorn with without dropping my defensive stats. Also hits the Delmise for super effective damage as well, because otherwise Plasma Fist plus Close Combat's really not doing anything to that guy. So Fire Punch is just kind of nice double coverage for his both of his grass types there. Again, Zeraora is a good Pokemon to kind of blow through his Ferropex core. I've got the Fire Punch there for Pharaoh, I've got the Fightinium Z if I want to use that, and I've of course got the Plasma Fist, even potentially terrain boosted in this game to pressure the Toxapex with. So I feel like Zeraora was kind of a must bring in this matchup. Bulk Up will allow me to live a neutral Choice Scarf Earthquake from his Crocodile, so that's something kind of note later in the game. If I need to, I can live that Choice Scarf Earthquake, blow him away with the Close Combat or the Z Close Combat. And the Z there is also going to help kind of augment my breaking power if he's a more defensive variant of the Crocodile. I can blow through that thing at +1 with the Z move, assuming he's not like Chompal Berry or Focus Sash or anything like that. So I like the Zeraora set here in this game. Definitely puts a ton of pressure on his team with just clicking like terrain boosted Plasma Fist in this match. Definitely hits his team really, really hard, and of course outspeeds everything naturally, as it often does. Next up here is Battletoad, the Mega Venusaur. Running Synthesis, Sludge Bomb, Hidden Power, Fire, and Earthquake this week. Running max HP, kind of mixed defenses, but more geared towards the especially defensive side. This is my main kind of check to his Tapu Koko, because I'm not obviously 4 times weak to ice like my Gligar will be in a second here. So this is kind of a nice primary check to the Tapu Koko. I do need to scout, like I mentioned, for if he's running a Z Brave Bird set on that thing. If he's not carrying Brave Bird at all, I should wall it all day. Maybe he'll be running something like Nature's Madness, but I do have Synthesis there to kind of help out with that. I didn't really feel like I needed Grass Stab in this game. Like, the only thing, his water type is Toxapex, which means he's going to take like just as much damage from an Earthquake as he will from as a Giga Drain. Crocodile's a little bit annoying, but I do have pretty good checks for that in something like my Gligar. As long as I play the prediction game right with Earthquake versus Knockoff, and it's not like Crocodile, if he is Scarf, is going to really do a whole lot to my Venusaur anyways. So I felt like I didn't really need Grass-type coverage in this match, and I'd rather have something like Sludge Bomb to hit things like Dragonite, hit things like the Delmise for pretty good damage, and potentially snag poisons on his team. Primarina as well is a good specially defensive check to his Primarina with a Thick Fat. I think his best option to hit me is Psychic. So he's definitely going to have to play some prediction games if he elected to bring the Primarina, but he just straight up didn't bring it in the first place, so that's fine by me. But yeah, Venusaur just kind of spamming Sludge Bomb versus team, snagging some poisons, be pretty valuable for me, I think. And HP Fire obviously is going to pressure the Ferrothorn pretty hard. I was really kind of expecting to see the Ferrothorn, but not Toxapex. But he actually didn't end up bringing either. So maybe I would change my coverage a little bit on Venusaur, run like Giga Drain over HP Fire or something. But otherwise, I think the Venusaur had a pretty good matchup here, and Earthquake just kind of rounds out its coverage really nicely to damage things like Gengar, Toxapex, if he'd happen to bring those guys. Next up is Swear to Me, the Gligar. Running Eviolite, of course, on Gligar with Immunity, Earthquake, Roost, Defog, and Toxic. Running, again, kind of mixed defenses, max HP with more geared towards the especially defensive side. I do believe I can live 2 HP Ices from non-boosting item Koko or something like that with this Gligar set, and obviously do a big chunk of damage back with Earthquake. Toxic is nice if I'm predicting him to switch out of the Tapu Koko into something like his Crocodile, for example. I can land a Toxic on that, or I'm predicting him to go Tornadus, Dragonite, whatever. Landing a Toxic will be pretty nice. I don't think he'd run sub-Dragonite versus me, so landing a Toxic on that thing, kind of limiting its turns on the field, will be pretty valuable for me this match. I do have Roost on there, of course, for longevity. Predicted Z moves, things like that. I could just Roost off damage with Gligar. It's pretty bulky in this matchup. It can take hits from pretty much everything on his team. And of course, Defog is really nice if you happen to run like a more hazard stack variant with the Toxapex or the Ferrothorn. I don't super appreciate things like Spikes being up, for example, for my Mega Venusaur, so definitely want to get rid of those if he happened to bring them. But yeah, Gligar pretty much walls a good bit of his team. It doesn't do a ton back in return, but if I can get some passive chip damage on things with Toxic over the course of the match, and kind of bring this in as an offensive quote-unquote check to the Tapu Koko, I think that's pretty much all I need the Gligar to do in this one. Next up here is Sauron the Necrozma, running Max Fizdef Necrozma with leftovers, Psychic, Heat Wave, Stealth Rock, and Moonlight. This is my dedicated Mega Medicham check. Mega Medicham really can't touch Necrozma too much. Even if he's carrying like Toxic or something, that's not such a huge deal because I don't anticipate Necrozma to be on the field for long chunks of time this game. Heat Wave is going to pressure the Ferrothorn very nicely, also does some good damage to the Delmise, of course. And Psychic is going to pressure the Toxapex for pretty decent damage. Does a little bit of damage to the Dragonite and things like that as well. Giving up Stealth Rock is going to be really important in this game to make sure that Dragonite's multi-scale is broken and that he can't go +2 on whatever he's trying to set up on. Excuse me, on whatever he's trying to set up on in the first place. Having those stealth rocks up over the course of the match can be really, really important. Limit that thing's ability to potentially break through my team and sweep me. So, yeah, that's Necrozma set this game. Physically defensive for the Medicham is pretty self-explanatory. This match, I don't think I really had a better check on my team, and it's kind of difficult. Like, when you have a pure psychic type like this, it's kind of difficult to say you're not going to bring it physically defensive against a team that has a freaking Medicham, because there's really not a lot of good switch-ins into that game. So you count your lucky stars that you have a pretty good one here at Necrozma, and you'll take what it can give you there. Next up here is Dwayne the Terrakion, running Choice Scarf Terrakion with Close Combat, Earthquake, Stone Edge, and Poison Jab, running max attack Adamant Nature on this Terrakion. I actually was able to get away with Adamant this game because the main thing that Terrakion's here to do is to offensively check a +1 variant of Dragonite. Pretty much whatever I have in should be able to break the multi-scale on the Dragonite. Hopefully I can deny it from getting up 2 DDs in this match, otherwise it's going to be kind of problematic to play around, but offensively, Terrakion can check that thing pretty well. It can check things like Tornadus really well if he happened to bring that, as he did, actually. It counter Scarfs his Crocodile as well. I do outspeed, I believe, Jolly Crocodile with this investment, so I should outspeed a Choice Scarf variant as well. And then, like I mentioned, just checking things offensively like the Dragonite is really important. Being able to offensively check the Tapu Koko is nice, so with Poison Jab, it's going to do some pretty solid damage to that thing. I felt like Poison Jab was a little bit better than Earthquake in this instance because it also hits something like the Primarina if I happen to want to do that. And it also doesn't give Dragonite absolutely free setup because you can't like go Dragonite on a ground type move, for example. I'll get at least a little bit of chip damage off on him. So I felt like Poison Jab was better overall. I'm mostly trying to use it to hit the Koko anyways, and I guess a little bit the Primarina, but Stone Edge is kind of the button of choice in this game. I don't think he'd kind of risk things like his Crocodile and his Ferrothorn on me anyways. So I felt like Stone Edge was kind of the main thing I needed this for. Needed it for that Dragonite check, and just kind of a general offensive pivot over the course of the game. Not pivot, offensive check over the course of the game to some of his more threatening mons. Lastly here, we've got Frogchamp the Greninja, running Life Orb Greninja with Torrent, Dark Pulse, Ice Beam, Hydro Pump, and Spikes. Running max attack, Timid Nature. I believe that's just enough speed to creep. Oh, what was I creeping here? I believe that's just enough speed to creep the Tornadus. After Stealth Rocks, Tornadus should drop to an Ice Beam. If Dragonite's multi-scale is broken, it'll drop to an Ice Beam. It won't drop from full, unfortunately, but it'll do enough damage that he won't want to go +2 on me, which is really the whole point of this game anyways, is to make sure the Dragonite doesn't get to +2. So Ice Beam's just kind of nice to pressure those things. Spikes I opted for over anything else in this match just because I want to be able to pressure that Ferrothorn Toxapex core if he brought it. Because obviously those two kind of wall Greninja, even if I'm clicking Life Orb Dark Pulse, it's really not doing more than 30 or 40% to those guys if they're running specially defensive. So I wanted to make sure I had the spikes on there to help pressure those things over the course of the match, whittle them down, and then maybe let Greninja do something later. This is also a pretty decent offensive check to a slightly chipped variant of Mega Medicham, non-choice Scarf variants of Crocodile, things like that. It just offensively is very good versus team just spamming Dark Pulse. Honestly, his Dark Resist is the Primarina, I think, is about it. Oh, and Crocodile, but obviously that's not going to appreciate a water type move. And Tapu Koko, I guess, but that's not typically a more defensive Pokemon. So really the only thing that I could see him bringing that would kind of counter the Greninja is the Primarina. I didn't think it was really worth running Gunk Shot when I can just get some spikes up and start to chip down the rest of his team, predicting the Primarina switch in. But Greninja is just kind of a nice offensive mon here to make sure that Dragonite's not setting up for free. If the Gengar starts to become a problem, I do have the Dark Pulse obviously on my Greninja. I should live anything that Choice Scarf Gengar wants to go for, assuming I know he's not locked into Focus Blast. So it's a little bit of a guessing game sometimes here with the Greninja, but I think it was overall kind of worth bringing in this matchup. Especially considering like my Celesteela didn't really have a very good matchup in my opinion. Choice Scarf Crocodile or Assault Vest Crocodile or something to deal with my Latios was pretty obvious this match, I felt. Plus I'd have to try and be able to break through Ferrothorn as well. The coverage just didn't work on Latios this game, so really other than that, the only thing I considered was Comfey, but again, the issue with Ferropex is just way too much for me to kind of overcome. So I felt like Greninja kind of made sense in the last slot here. Give me a nice offensive Pokemon over the course of the match. And then also those spikes can be really, really valuable if he doesn't bring Defog. So yeah, that's the squad for this team that we're rolling up with. Let's get right into the match here. As you can see, my opponent did bring the Crocodile, Delmise, Mega Medicham, Dragonite, Tapu Koko, and the Tornadus Incarnate. So more or less what I expected this game. Surprised, I guess, to see no Ferrothorn, but I'm guessing that's probably a Rapid Spin variant of Delmise to help remove his hazard. So he went with more like hazard prevention than he did hazard stack in this game, which is fine by me. I prefer not to defog my own stealth rocks anyways in this match because that Dragonite is going to be really problematic. But just kind of looking at lead matchup, I feel like Greninja is kind of the best overall lead. I can potentially find out if his Crocodile's Choice Scarf and kind of scout that out into my Venusaur. Like if he stays in to go for Earthquake or something, I could kind of glean from that he's probably an offensive variant of, or a Choice Scarf variant of his Crocodile, so I get some intel there. Dark Pulse is obviously going to pressure the Dhelmise pretty hard. Ice Beam for the Dragonite and the Tornadus in case he decide to lead off the rip with those. Basically the only thing that Greninja matches up negatively against, I would say, is Tapu Koko. And I do have two pretty good responses in the back for that with Venusaur and the Gligar. So I wasn't super concerned if he wanted to lead with Tapu Koko. That was fine by me. I just wanted to kind of deny the Mega Medicham lead. I believe Hydro Pump does OHKO because I am Life Orb. And then also like making sure the Dragonite just doesn't say, oh, I'm going to set up and go. It was very, very important to me this match. So that's exactly what I'm going to do, is lead off here with the Greninja. As I believe my opponent decides to lead with the Mega Medicham here. So turn one, like I said, I'm pretty sure I blow this Medicham away with a Hydro Pump, but I don't want to take Fake Out chip on my Greninja this early in the match, because Fake Out's actually going to do like 30 or 40% from this Mega Medicham. So I got to switch out here. I'm going to go into my Necrozma for pretty free here on what I'm predicting to be, again, a Fake Out, and I'll take basically no damage from it, especially with my Leftovers recovery. So that's pretty good start for me, even though I didn't get to kind of play a little more offensively on the first turn of the match. I really didn't want to take a bunch of chip damage on my Greninja for no reason. This is just going to allow me to get up free Stealth Rocks. He shouldn't want to stay in with his Medicham here to eat anything that my Necrozma wants to go for. And the Dhelmise comes out, probably predicting these Stealth Rocks here. So Dhelmise comes in, that could definitely be trying to spin these rocks away, but I really want to keep them up for my for his Dragonite in the back, as I mentioned. So I'm just going to go for Heat Wave this turn. It should 2-hit KO the Dhelmise if he wants to stay in and Rapid Spin. But he actually doubles out into his Tornadus there, probably predicting me to go Venusaur. But like I mentioned, I do have the Heat Wave, and I do get an unfortunate burn on this Tornadus, which means I am going to 2-hit KO it from this range, depending on what he decides to do. And if he has a physical variant of Tornadus, that's also obviously very good for me. So Heat Wave's going to do a good chunk to that Tornadus, as he turns out to be U-turn with Life Orb. So I'm able to get that Tornadus in range of Stealth Rocks. That means he has to remove later in the game to basically bring that thing back. I just went for Moonlight this turn in case he was like Z Hurricane and wanted to drop it there. I didn't really have great switch-ins for Z Hurricane, so I was like, well, I guess you're just going to have to eat this Necrozma. So I went for the Moonlight there. I don't really regret doing that play, even though he did end up U-turning out. I think that was still the right play overall, was to Moonlight up there with the Necrozma and scat out what he wanted to do. Anyways, the Tapu Koko comes in here, and this is a pretty free Gligar or Venusaur. I like to go to Gligar because I don't think he'd HP Ice this turn of anything. And he actually shows the defog, which is kind of unfortunate because now my Stealth Rocks are obviously gone for his Dragonite. And I don't want him going hard Dragonite and getting up any kind of setup on my face in my face without getting a little bit of something for it. So I'm going to go for Toxic this turn as opposed to going for Earthquake. I felt like Toxic was good to catch something like the Dhelmise coming in if he happened to want to go that, or if he just wanted to go out into something like his Tornadus. So Toxic was pretty free there. He has no Toxic immunity anyways. And I'm able to get the Crocodile, which is pretty nice for me, even though I do kind of expect this to be Choice Scarf Crocodile. Any chip damage on it's pretty nice. Eventually it's going to get whittled down to the point where it can't beat me, and it actually allows my Venusaur to beat it 1v1. So I'm going to go out into the Venusaur, predicting the knockoff, and it does look like he's running Choice Scarf Crocodile, so definitely predicted that correctly. And here's a pretty free Synthesis for me. If he decides to stay in and keep doing damage, he's going to keep getting whittled down by Toxic. Otherwise, Synthesis is going to allow me to get my Mega up and allow me to keep myself healthy to help deal with Tapu Koko later in the game. The Dhelmise as well, to some extent. It's going to be nice to keep this Venusaur healthy for, as he goes hard into the Tornadus and is basically going to be able to fire off a Hurricane for free here. I don't want to go out into Zeraora in case he decides to go for U-turn, because that's not a great look for me if he has Pursuit on his Crocodile. So what I like to do instead is go out into Gligar. It's kind of my least useful member on the team, so I don't mind it taking a little bit of damage here. But my opponent unfortunately misses the Hurricane. I don't think that would have 2-hit KO'd me unless he had like HP Ice on top of it. I could just kind of roosted off damage as he died to Life Orb and Burn, but definitely unfortunate that he did miss, because it's going to allow me another kind of free turn here, where instead of going for Earthquake, what I'm actually going to do is double out into my Zeraora, saying, okay, if he wants to go for another Hurricane, that's fine. Otherwise, I'm going to try and catch whatever kind of switch-in you might want to bring in here, something like his Dragonite or whatever, or his Dhelmise. I want to be able to catch that with my Zeraora, start bulking up, but he ended up going Crocodile anyways. Definitely going to have to scout for the Choice Scarf on that thing, but go out into my Gligar here, predicting an Earthquake. And now, just in case he's not Choice Scarf Crocodile, like I mentioned, I'm pretty sure he is, but just in case he's not, I don't want my Gligar getting knocked off, because even though it's not super valuable, it's still like, there's no reason to give him that when I don't have to. So what I'm actually going to do here is double out again and go into my Venusaur. Again, not trying to catch the Dhelmise or anything, even though that worked out pretty nicely, but just kind of scouting for an extra knockoff, maybe get some extra Toxic Chip off on the Crocodile. That's fine by me. Anyways, again, no poison immunities. Just going to go for Sludge Bomb this turn. If he wants to go out into Crocodile, we've kind of played that game already. If he goes out into Dragonite, I do get to break the multi-scale, which is nice. So I'm going to go for another Sludge Bomb here, trying to snag a poison on it. Unfortunately, I don't get it, which means he might be out of range of another Sludge Bomb, but I don't get it this turn. So what I'm going to do is actually sack off my Gligar here, expecting him to say, okay, I'm not going to set up a second time in the Venusaur's face, because if he poisons me, I get nothing out of it. So I'm expecting him to just kind of go for a Z move here, as it turns out to be Supersonic Sky Strike. And we sack off the Gligar. Again, Gligar was kind of the least useful member on the team, I'll say. So I don't super mind sacking it off there to the Dragonite. Just glad he didn't decide to go for another DD there or anything like that, as I went for Toxic. But thankfully he is only at +1 here, and I can revenge kill this with Terrakion, like I mentioned in my team builder. Definitely 100% good for Stone Edge here. There's no reason to click anything else. Even if Crocodile does come in, that's like, we've seen the game with Crocodile and Venusaur already. So Dwayne's going to come in here, click Stone Edge, knock out the Tornadus. That's really nice for my Venusaur that he gave me the Tornadus. It did only have one Life Orb hit left, so he maybe figured it was fine to sack it off, but definitely glad he doesn't have that offensive check in the back anymore. So really the only thing that's threatening Venusaur at this point is the potentials like Brave Bird, Tapu Koko. We already know he can't be Z, and of course this Mega Medicham with a Psychic type move. So gonna go out into the Necrozma again on the High Jump Kick coming out. Really had no reason not to go for that, considering I was locked into Stone Edge. But yeah, go out to Necrozma there, eat up that High Jump Kick pretty nicely, and I'm just gonna throw off my Stealth Rocks once more. Again, keeping that Dragonite low, even though its multi-scale is already broken, making sure it's in range of my Sludge Bomb. It can never come in on my Venusaur. It's pretty valuable to me, because he does still have neutral fly, even though he doesn't have a Z move anymore. So I'm going to predict him to go for a Shadow Claw here, or a Rapid Spin. I'm not really sure which one he'd want to go for, but I definitely want to break this Dhelmise. It's not a terrible thing to be kicking around, but it prevents me from locking into like close combat with my Terrakion, prevents me from just throwing off my Z move with Zeraora. +1 Fire Punch I think also doesn't knock out Dhelmise, so definitely need some chip damage on it, and I'm perfectly content to sack off my Greninja to get it. I don't think Greninja was really doing a ton else in this game. Like, it's going to be able to revenge kill a non-boosted variant of Dragonite, I guess, and Mega Medicham if it hasn't used its fake out yet, but it really, I didn't think that was enough to warrant keeping it around. Especially when I don't want my Venusaur to be taking a whole bunch of chip damage now that my Gligar is gone. I need something to check that Tapu Koko in the back. So, anyways, all that out of the way. Greninja goes down. Go into Zeraora here. Click Fire Punch to knock out the Dhelmise. Zeraora is looking really nice at this point in the game. Obviously, like I mentioned, this is probably Choice Scarf Crocodile, so I do need to get out of here. But this is a nice offensive check to the Dragonite. Will drop after. I do actually think I might outspeed +1 Adamant Dragonite if he is Adamant. But even if he's at neutral, of course, I do outspeed and knock it out with Plasma Fist. Plasma Fist is going to do big damage to Tapu Koko. If the terrain's up, I also OHKO the Mega Medicham with Plasma Fist, so they're way too valuable to risk there. Just going to go out into my Venusaur here and basically just deny him from going Dragonite. By going for Sludge Bomb here, the Dragonite would have died upon entry, upon Stealth Rocks. And I don't mind trading for the Crocodile either, because since he did elect to stay in an Earthquake there, I can just Synthesis this turn. If he decides to save the Crocodile, great, I've got my Venusaur back, and if not, it's going to die to Toxic. So this was kind of a win-win for me. Getting rid of the Crocodile is great for my Zeraora. It was really the only thing stopping it from potentially kind of blasting through the rest of his team here. So I was totally fine with making that trade there of the Zeraora for the Crocodile, or sorry, the Venusaur for the Crocodile. So glad to see that thing's gone. Zeraora looking really, really nice in the back. As long as I get like 25% or so off in this Medicham, we should be doing all right. Because I thought he might go into Tapu Koko here, and I wanted to deny him from doing so, I decided to go out into the Zeraora because, like, well, I've got the Necrozma in the back for the Medicham anyways. Not 2-hit KO'd by High Jump Kick, as you can see on the switch-in. So there was really no problem with me, I thought, going out into Zeraora there. Worst case, he went Medicham, and I had to switch out on High Jump Kick, which I did. So switch out into Sauron on the High Jump Kick, and he unfortunately crits me with the second one before I'm able to get off the Psychic chip that I needed. Basically there, if I got a Psychic off instead of getting crit, I get enough damage off on the Medicham to put it in range of Plasma Fist, and I literally just spam Plasma Fist until I win. If he's Roost Tapu Koko, I might need to bulk up a couple times, but this was a dub, basically, if I didn't get crit there. But I can still win. I can still win this game. Was in a good position there. I'm still in an okay position. I'm just going to have to do it a little bit differently. So instead of winning with Zera Aura at this point, just in case he has like Drain Punch on his Medicham or something like that, I think it's a little more reliable to try and win with my Terrakion, clicking Poison Jab here. So what I'm actually going to do now is go out into Zera Aura, click Plasma Fist to get the damage that I need off on this Medicham. Drain Punch won't knock me out from full, so he has to go for High Jump Kick or something like that to knock me out. I'm going to go for Plasma Fist, get the chip damage I need on Medicham to put it in Poison Jab range. If he's got Bullet Punch, he's got Bullet Punch, but I felt like he probably wasn't carrying it since we've already seen Fake Out, High Jump Kick. He's probably got Ice Punch and then like a Psychic type move. So definitely wasn't expecting him to have a Bullet Punch here. Able to get out into my Terrakion, just quick Poison Jab. Dragonite's going to die after Stealth Rocks. The Medicham dies from the range it's at. And I do have a chance to KO the Koko if he's running no bulk. It's like a 25% chance to KO the Koko after Stealth Rocks if he's running no bulk. If he's running some bulk, obviously I won't, but unless he's running like a damage boosting item, which he's running Defog, so he might not be. Unless he's running a pretty significant damage boosting item like Choice Specs, he shouldn't be able to knock me out from full. So he goes out into Medicham here to get a little bit of Fake Out chip off on my Terrakion, but again, that's not enough unless he's running like Choice Specs or Life Orb Tapu Koko to knock me out with a D-Gleam or a T-Bolt or anything like that. So I'm going to be able to go for Poison Jab again this turn, knock out the Medicham, and now the Tapu Koko is going to come out. We'll see if he's running a damage boosting move. It's definitely not like Choice Specs Defog at the very least, so worst case he's Life Orb, and even then I believe it's a roll to live Life Orb here. I think the min roll on Choice Specs was 90%, so it's probably a roll in his favor if I had to guess if he's Life Orb. I'm going to go for Poison Jab here, not knock out the Tapu Koko. That's, you know, a pretty decent roll if he's running some bulk, so that's fine by me. He goes for T-Bolt here. Like I said, does not knock me out, but unfortunately gets the full para, and that means that he's going to outspeed me on the following turn and be able to knock me out with Thunderbolt. So we didn't get the wish here of a very clean game. Like, I hacked the Tornadus a little bit early game. I dodged a Hurricane, and I burned it. Not really sure if either of those mattered in the long term of this match, because I just sacked off Blackguard or Dragonite later anyways. But obviously at the end here, way too much hacks on the back end, crits the Necrozma, and then gets the Thunderbolt para on my Terrakion, you know. That's Pokemon. We're 1-1 now because of it, unfortunately, but would have really liked to come out of this game 2-1. I felt like, or 2-0, I felt like I'd put myself in a good position to win. Like, literally without the crit, I won 2-0 with, or maybe even 3-0. No, 2-0. Without the crit, I won 2-0 with Zera Aura. Without the full para, I still won with Terrakion, like, or without the para, not the full para. Without the para, I won with Terrakion. Like, what can you do? That's Mon sometimes. So definitely a rough loss here. I've been getting hacked a little bit lately. Not necessarily in my main leagues, but in kind of my side tournaments, I've been getting a little bit of hacks lately, unfortunately. There's a couple more games coming up at some point where I do get hacked pretty significantly. You guys will see coming up, I guess. But definitely a rough one, not gonna lie. Definitely rough to lose that way. I felt like I'd played this game pretty well. I was, you know, sacked off the Gligar at the right time, kept my Venusaur nice and healthy over the course of the match, kind of established my win con with Zera Aura, and then very quickly revamped it when the Necrozma got crit. I felt like I put myself in a really good position to win this game, and it just didn't work out. So there's not a whole lot to learn from that, I feel like. Hopefully we get to meet again in playoffs later on, get a nice clean game for once with nseliga. Third time's a charm, you know, we'll get a clean game eventually, but GG to nseliga. He played pretty well, all things considered. He just got lucky at the end, you know, it happens that way sometimes, but yeah, thank you guys very much for watching to this point if you did. Hopefully I'll see you guys in another video, and yeah, peace guys.